for almost anyone, you can find something from their past that they did in college or high school or whatever that is in bad taste, outlandish, ridiculous, totally regrettable. Like again, if there was a video camera playing throughout my life, you could and you cut out little snippets, you could make me look like a crazed lunatic. But the fact is, everyone's done this. It's part of being a human being, is that you do silly stuff. So no, I don't think she's heartbroken like on a personal level. But what I mean by you're making a distinction without a difference is the fact that everyone immediately, without any prompting and without really any discipline, if they do something contrary, all got behind this, all said the same thing, all used the same moralizing language, all basically accepted the same process of this is what must happen, and all accepted the same kind of ultimate outcome. And so, it's like if you go back to the Soviet Union, you could say, oh, did people really believe in dialectical materialism? Well, it doesn't matter what was in their hearts when they included Marxian slogans at the beginning and end of every essay they wrote, or of every sermon they gave, or of every conversation they had with their boss. They effectively believe in it. They are going through the ritual. This is again where I think we have to understand all this on a religious nature. There are many people in various religions and churches who have private doubts. I would say almost everyone has a private doubt about their religion. But the fact that they go through the ritual expresses that the power of this mythos.
Well, well, you just hit on something. I mean, so as a Catholic might have to go in and say a few Hail Marys. This is what they have to say. We need to heal. And exactly. There's no place for society. I mean, it is very religious, like the way that they come out and have to say the verse. And here's Mitch Landrieu from the mayor of New Orleans, of course. There's no place in democracy for bigotry or racism. It's time for Governor Northam to step down. This moment calls for a truthful discussion about our past and the lingering institutional racism that permeates every facet of our society and still lives today. And this is another thing, Richard, that this thing reminds us of, is that we're never any closer to the finish line. These people, the more whites are dispossessed and the more whites are made to embarrass themselves, to them, if you listen to their language, we are further away from racial reconciliation than we were. We're worse off today than we were during slavery or Jim Crow, or any of the things that they think were so bad. They actually think it's worse today. And that
we're haunted by it, I think, is another. You've pointed out a number of these cliches and morally laden words that have used: democracy, bigotry, no place in our America. All of these kinds of things. Another one I heard was haunted. So we're always kind of haunted by these things. And remember, if you think about a great horror movie or Edgar Allan Poe or whatever. It's like the place itself kind of, there's like an animus. It's a kind of like primitive form of religion where, and I think maybe it's kind of true. I've walked into houses that are kind of spooky, so there might be something to this. But anyway, it's like America, there's this like animistic like demon that's hiding around the corner. And he's always there, and you kind of can't get rid of him. And even in the second you think you've gotten rid of him is the second he comes back.
And I will tell you,
these are the ways of, this is the thought pattern of the elite. It is the thought pattern, I hate to say it, of a vast majority of the middle class and even some people in the lower class. I think some people really down to earth types just, think this is all ridiculous because they're, in a really good way, they're the salt of the earth. But the vast majority of Americans, these are the kinds of thought patterns. And they're I want it to become more ridiculous because that will hopefully be able to break them out of it. But this is how they understand reality and theology.
I don't know. I think most Americans certainly know what they're supposed to say if a microphone's in their face and they're asked about something like this. But I don't think they really believe it. I don't. But Now, I could be wrong. I do think
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Southerner, and I live around Southerners. You've lived in different parts of the country, but
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, people around here, they know in their hearts that they fundamentally agree with us on issues. But here though is Governor Phil Bryant, the governor of the state of Mississippi, which still has the Confederate flag in their state flag, and thank God for that. But this should be condemned by every Democrat and Republican governor. I do so in the strongest possible way. Come on now, Phil. I mean, that's just embarrassing. All of this is embarrassing. Donald Trump, of course, and said this was unforgivable. But you, Richard, you wrote what I thought would have been the pitch perfect response that the president should have had. Do you have it handy? I mean, can you read that?
Well, I can recite it. Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump did make a response which maybe wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard, but it certainly wasn't good. And it was like, well, if we would have brought out this scandal when Gillespie was running, we might have won or something, which I think is just a excessively shallow thing to say. It's not questioning any of this stuff. And then he ultimately ended. He did mention the abortion thing, but he ultimately ended it as unforgivable. And yeah, I mean, and we've learned recently there is, and I don't know if this is confirmed. This is a rumor, but one of his classmates saw Northam's comments, which I presume our audience have seen. These were widely circulated. Basically, he was describing in a disturbingly clinical and objective way a late term abortion. And look, I would say that most people in the country kind of that abortion is safe, legal, and rare. I think that probably describes most people's perspective on abortion. They don't like it. They don't want to talk about it, but then maybe making it illegal is a little much. But someone just going on describing giving birth to a child and then, terminating it if the mother wanted. So there's just something just fundamentally disturbing. And, maybe there's some exceedingly rare circumstance where one might have to do such a thing. I get it. Being a doctor, being a physician, you sometimes have to do terrible things in order to perpetuate life. So I get it. But like, to describe this in this just objective, unemotional detail with no sense of the whole tragedy of it all, it shows us a man who no one wants to be around. Such a person, no one wants such a person leading a state or a country. There's just something wrong when you describe this thing like that. It was, I get it, how people are disturbed, but it's like what I would say if I were writing copy for Trump is, don't reinforce the taboo. So basically say, look, I don't like Northam, but there, the idea that we should get rid of him because he dressed up like a Klansman or put up blackface when he was 20 or something. Who cares? That's totally meaningless. I think people should really question his capacity for leadership when he can treat a very late term abortion, almost post birth abortion, in such a callous manner. And that we need to keep our eyes on the ball and not get caught up in this racial frenzy. I think that would have been something that is normie friendly. It is well within the Overton window, and it would actually make people think. And it would kind of own the libs as well. The libs would freak out because they would say, "Oh, look, he doesn't understand the gravity of what it means to wear blackface or whatever." So he would own the libs, but he would actually do it in a good way. But he didn't do it.
It would have been the only adult response that I've read from a government official throughout this whole event over the course of the last weekend, and we haven't heard anything like that. And I got it right here. What you exactly wrote word for word. This would have been so refreshing to have heard the president say that. This is the statement that you would have written for Trump.
Right.
Wished he would have delivered. The political class is up in arms over a newly discovered yearbook photo from the 1980s in which the Virginia governor is seen in blackface. Was it tasteless? Of course. It was a Halloween prank. Who hasn't done something stupid and regrettable years ago? I know I have. But a prank shouldn't disqualify a man from office. What the political class should be talking about is the callous, clinical way in which Northam described what many would consider to be infanticide. Northam's comments demonstrated a disregard for the life of the child and a lack of understanding of the tragedy of abortion. So that plays to Trump's base. It makes them feel good, but he's still the adult in the room. And you finish with this, but the political class in Washington gets more excited about a supposed racism controversy than real ethical questions surrounding abortion. I won't lose sight of what really matters. Perfect, boom, end of story, big points for Trump. But that's another thing, Richard, that makes this thing so absurd is that the timing of it. I mean, we know that the law that was just passed in New York, I think they can now abort babies even as they're in the birth canal, which, I mean, that's murder. And it's certainly murder when I mean, it's murder either way, but it's certainly murder after they've been born. And that's what we're talking about here in Virginia. But that happened just literally earlier in the week, just a couple of days before this so-called scandal, this media manufactured fake scandal came out. He was talking about this, and Brad Griffin had a good line on this at Occidental Dissent. He wrote, "What kind of culture do we live in when both parties agree that wearing blackface is morally worse than infanticide?"
Right.
The GOP isn't moving the Overton window here. It's competing with the Democrats to hunt down racial heretics and scalp them. That's what the GOP and the so-called conservatives have done for it, well, really much longer than this, but at least the last 50, 60, 70 years. They have adopted the left's talking points and their icons and pretended that they have always been the conservative icons and talking points originally, like Martin Luther King is a Republican and Bull Connor was a Democrat and things like that. So you can't win when your idea of victory is hijacking their issues and pretending that you had the issue first, because nobody buys that.
Unbelievably myopic. I mean, I was, when this thing first came out and I saw like liberals and leftists jumping on it, I was in a way at first horrified at them. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you know, if you have a guy who's enacting your agenda, who's in office, and he did some stupid thing. I mean, again, I'm not offended by this blackface. I mean, it's just stupid. It's no longer in fashion. That's the most you could say from it about it. But anyway, if I was like, you guys aren't going to win because you're not ruthless enough. Like, you've got to stick by your man, and you don't just attack him because he has some little foible, in his background. Like, no one's perfect. You are not going to find anyone. So you've got to back these people. But then it flipped over, and I became, I don't take back any of those comments, but basically it was the conservatives that thought that they were winning by this. It's so myopic. All they are doing is reinforcing the taboo that will be used against them endlessly. They are legitimizing it. They are so dumb at some level, and they're even dumber because they think they're winning by this. Like, conservatives are excited about what just happened this weekend. This is a good weekend.
And that goes back to, and you had a good thread on how this is the end of the white left too. I mean, people like Tim Kaine and some of these others that the high-ranking Democratic elected officials in Virginia condemning Northam, that this somehow makes them look good, makes them look weak, and makes them look pathetic. But then it was big league politics, I believe, that was the one who first uncovered this, and then it got taken everywhere. And then they doubled down today by saying, why won't you step down, Ralph? Are you scared because you don't want to step down because a black man would take your spot?
It's unbelievable.
If this black guy that they're talking about takes his spot, it's going to be worse for any issue that they
of MAGA. It's not even it's on their own terms. Like, for Big League Politics, which was a site that was created in 2017 by former Breitbart people and some friends of them. This is a Trump MAGA site. It's referencing Trump, Big League and Bigly and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, from the perspective of MAGA, all of this is terrible on an ideological and just brutal political level. Like, politically, this is worse for Virginia by the fact that they're going to most likely, and again, Northam hasn't resigned yet. I'm actually kind of surprised. Maybe I don't know. Weirdly, he has kind of balls or something. I hate praising this man who's condemned Charlottesville as well, using the exact same terms. like there's no place for hate and bigotry. But anyway, from the MAGA people who jump on this, like it's bad ideologically and it's bad politically. So they're leading towards the ascension of the lieutenant governor who is black, who is from what I can tell is going to be far worse than some kind of wishy-washy white Democrat, good old boy liberal.
That's right.
He will be worse. Secondly, in terms of MAGA, like the liberals aren't going to stop calling you racist now. Because the fact is, MAGA is a white movement. The GOP is a white party. It is a monoracial party, whereas the Democrats actually are multiracial. We can talk about that, what that means later. But the fact is, like, they're going to continually to call you racist, and you have just legitimized it and given them more ammunition. You have to denounce immediately someone like Steve King, who says, it was Western civilization, blah, blah. You have to denounce someone who says a tasteless joke at a dinner party. You have to denounce someone who at one point in his career in the mid-90s spoke at a Council Conservative Citizens meeting or something. You have to denounce someone who, attended an American Renaissance conference in 1998 and then, interned for Nikki Haley 4 years later. You have to denounce them because you are legitimizing the memes that are used against you. So these people are unbelievably stupid.
They're pathetic. They're contemptible beyond words. These whites, they're an embarrassment to our race. But at the same time, it'd be nice if we had a little solidarity. I can tell you this: you cannot. I don't think if any of us, if you or me or any of the people listening today, I don't know if you can find a comparable example to where this has happened with regards to blacks, where a black did something that offended a white, and all the blacks rushed to condemn him. Now, blacks are tribal, and they have their own little hierarchy and their own chiefdoms within their race, and they will get into it with one another. But when it comes time to close ranks against whites, they will always do that. You will never find an incident where blacks condemn another black to try to curry favor with whites. And I'll tell you another thing: blacks are laughing their ass off about this. I don't think they're hurt. I don't think they're upset about it. I think they're laughing their asses off. They love watching these white people cut themselves. And in some cases, like Al Sharpton, I've seen him all over TV this weekend. He's laughing all the way to the bank. This keeps him in business. He needs things like this in order to continue to survive. And then a quick departure. How do you think Dinesh D'Souza's feeling? There's a movie. He's going to make a movie about this.
Yeah, I mean, there have been many jokes. I think Josh Neal from the Heel Turn Network actually said, there comes a moment in your life where your potential turns into reality, where you are actualized as a human being. Today, Dinesh D'Souza experienced that.
I think I read that.